Alright, so we are going to show you how to use the laser cutter. And first and foremost, you need something, some art file, something to cut, something to make happy, something awesome. So you need to design your art file or design your file that you're going to use to control the laser cutter with. That could be a bitmap, could be a vector file, but depending on what type of file you use is going to affect the performance of the laser cutter. If you're going to use a bitmap image, that's going to be really good for engraving. It is not going to be good for cutting. If you're going to cut something, you want to use a vector-based art program. If you're not quite sure what the difference of those is, Google bitmap versus vector, and they'll explain it significantly better than I could. So check that out. So we're gonna try and cut something with the laser cutter today. So we're going to use the vector program Inkscape. You could use Adobe Illustrator. Doesn't really matter which version you use. So let's see. I've got an artboard here. It's pretty big. I don't know the dimensions of it in inches or millimeters. I'm going to change that. So I'm going to go to the Document Properties under the File menu. I'm going to change my unit of measurement to inches for right now. 2 inches by 2 inches. Close this. So now I've got a pretty good idea of the dimensions of what I'm going to be working with the laser cutter. Let's see. Choose the rectangle tool. I'm going to draw a rectangle here. So this is where things get kind of interesting. The laser cutter pays attention to the stroke and not really the fill. That's not 100% accurate when vectoring. It kind of does some funny stuff. So I just opened the Fill and Stroke tab. It's under the Object menu, Object Fill and Stroke, or Control-Shift-F. If I click on this rectangle, it says that I have no fill, and it's that I have a stroke that is currently black. I'm going to change that to red to give you a better idea what the fill is. That's the fill. You don't want any fill. X that out. No fill. All we have is stroke. That's good. Let's do something more fun. Letters, aha, exclamation point. So letters are kind of interesting. You don't always have to, but I tend to get in the habit of converting this series of text to a path. When you do that, you can no longer edit the text with the text option. So you want things to be pretty much, how they are as far as font size, font type, things like that before you do this. I'm going to go to the Object menu. It's a lie. I'm going to go to the Path menu, and while I have my text selected, I'm going to change it to a path. Now when I do this, before when I double-clicked it, it would choose the text tool. It doesn't do that anymore. If I double-click it, it gives me the letter. If I double or triple-click it again, it allows you to actually edit the path. I want to get rid of the fill, so I'm going to select it, go to Fill and Stroke, do X. Oh god, it disappears. I'm going to give it a stroke paint. I'm going to change that to black. So the laser cutter can understand different colors, and it allows you to use different power and speed settings depending on the colors that you choose. That's defined in the laser cutting software, not your paint program. All you do in the paint program is design, the layout and the colors and all that, and the laser cutter will interpret those accordingly. Another thing, everything should be at 100% opacity. If it's one notch less, if it's at 99.9 or whatever, if it's not at 100%, the laser cutter software might ignore it, or it might do other weird things. So if you're having issues, one, make sure that your all your contents fits within your artboard. 2, make sure that everything is at 100% opacity. And 3, make sure that everything is converted to a path. Those 3 things are probably the common causes of laser cutter anguish. So I've got this all set up. I'm going to go to my File menu. I'm going to click on Print. I'm going to print to an XPS document. If you're on a Mac, it's very difficult to convert to an XPS document. So if you have Inkscape loaded up on a Mac, you've got your file already, just bring it over to a PC and convert it to a Microsoft XPS document there. If anybody finds a better way to do this, please let me know. That'd be amazing. I'm going to go Print. It's just going to bring up a save dialog box, and we're going to call this the Amazing Aha Square. Save that. I'm going to minimize this. The laser cutter is already turned on, so we're going to go ahead and launch our Retina Engrave software. Ideally, you have your laser cutter turned on and all your safety checks done. That's displayed in another video before you launch the software. If you check the bottom left, you'll see it says USB connection. If it doesn't say USB connection, close the software, relaunch it. If it still doesn't say that, it says, awaiting USB connection. Give it a good 30 seconds to a minute. But if you're still having issues, close the software, find the USB cable on the right-hand side of the laser cutter, disconnect it, wait a moment, plug it back in. There should be a bright green LED that shows that the USB connection is connected and live. And usually, if there's issues connecting, it's just the USB cable needs to be disconnected and reconnected, and the software relaunched. Let's see, let's go to our File menu, Open File or Project, the Amazing AHA Square, open that. So there's a few tabs up here. There's the Raster tab, the Vector tab, the Design View. Raster is if you're going to engrave onto the top of your material. We're not doing that. We want to cut and engrave. So we're just going to do that under Vector Cut. If you had a photo, you know, and you were trying to engrave that onto a piece of wood, that you'd probably want to primarily do stuff in raster mode. But we want to cut out this square, and we just want to lightly engrave AHA in here, and we can do that all under the Vector tab. You can see that both those colors show up. You can see the dimensions here, 1.7 by 1.2. That's pretty much what I had set in Inkscape. If you go over here, you can see the layering, as well as all the settings for those colors. So if you're cutting and engraving, you usually want the engraving to happen first and the cutting to happen second. So I'm going to change the order of this. So the red mode is going to cut. So I'm going to change the speed down. I know these settings pretty good, so I'm going to set the speed at 30%, set the power at 100%. I'm going to set my passes to 3. These aren't arbitrary, randomly chosen amounts. I've done this a few times. There's a file, and I'll show that in just a second, that has some known kind of settings. So this section, that black section where I'm going to engrave, I don't want it to cut, I'm going to keep the speed way high. I'm going to change the power way down. If you don't know your material and you're not quite sure what's going on, high speed, low power are good kind of rules of thumb. High speed, low power. This section here, raster, black and white threshold, that's for if you're rastering, not for vector, so you can just ignore that when you're vectoring. If I minimize this, there's a file on the desktop somewhere, laser settings. That might take a moment to launch, but that's got, you know, previous settings that people have used to do their cutting for their files, so that can be a really good reference. If you do use a new material, something different, you do something funky, you know, go ahead and record it in here. It's great to leave your knowledge beyond so that your children and your children's children can all benefit from your work. Back to our Retina Engrave. This all is looking pretty good. Let's see, I'm going to get my material in the laser cutter, and this will be covered in another video so you can actually see what's going on. But place my material there. I've already checked the Z height, I've already checked the power settings, I've already checked to make sure the airflow is all good. So I feel pretty comfortable with that. The position of the laser is not where I want it to be, so I'm going to click the jog right button. That'll move the laser cutter, or the laser, jog up a bit. So that looks pretty good. I'm not 100% sure that this will fit, so I'm going to click on Run Job Perimeter, and that'll show an outline of the entire job that I'm going to do. It's not going to do it really accurate, it's just going to take 4 points, the outermost points that it might reach, and draw a square around that. It doesn't actually do anything to your wood, it's just moving the laser cutter. That looks good. I've got my speed at 30% for cutting, at 100% power, 3 passes. I've got 100% speed for what I'm going to engrave at 5% power and just 1 pass. That all looks pretty good. I like this. I'm going to hit the play button to start the job. Whenever you use the laser cutter, you want to be there with the laser cutter as it's cutting. You can kind of see, oh, this version it's not doing it. Oftentimes it'll show you here an outline of where it's actually actively cutting. It's not showing that for me right now. Oh, it just decided to. It's also reverse of what it's doing. That's interesting. So ignore that part. But when you are laser cutting, you want to stay with the laser cutter. If horrible flames burst and bad things happen, there is a fire extinguisher usually located just next to or behind the laser cutter, so know where that is. 2, there's a big red E-stop button. If something horrible does happen, just smash that E-stop. And that'll stop the laser cutter. It won't work again until you reset the E-stop button. If there's a little bit of flame, that's not a huge deal. Usually if you see a flame, you know you want your speed to be increased or your power to be decreased. You shouldn't have a standing flame at all. If you see a little flame every once in a while, that's okay, but you shouldn't have standing flames that continue to burn after the laser cutters pass through. So estimated vector, that just finished. This down here shows you the vector time. That looks pretty good. I'm going to open up the laser cutter, take my material out. That pops out nicely, and I have another AHA square with the AHA text on it. Beautiful. Close this guy. When you're done, you know you want to shut everything off. You want to clean up any sort of mess you might have created. Close the programs. Leave it ideally as good, if not better, than when you found it. but this looks pretty good. I think we're good to go.